Liberals hate socialists because socialists are the real thing. Notes from the edge of the narrative matrix. Liberals hate socialists for the same reason socialists hate liberals, because socialists are the thing that liberals are pretending to be. Socialists stand for truth, justice, peace, and equality, while liberals only pretend to stand for those things. And they both know it. Liberals know their favorite political party supports war, militarism, oligarchy, and inequality, and is rife with power-serving corruption, and socialists know it too, so they can critique these dynamics in ways that have the unpleasant sting of truth. Liberals don't mind it when some dopey right-winger criticizes their ideological faction, because the rightist has no idea what they're looking at, and offers up the dumbest and least relevant criticisms imaginable. When a socialist critiques that same faction, they do it in ways the liberal knows are true, and it causes the liberal to experience cognitive dissonance. If you love AOC, it's not going to bother you when a rightist calls her a woke, commie terrorist lover. But someone to the left of you pointing out the various ways she serves the ugliest aspects of the U.S. empire will grate against some of your most deeply treasured belief systems. Most liberals secretly hate socialists more than they hate rightists, because while rightists attack their political agendas, socialists attack their egos. They expose core identity structures for the sham that they are. Cognitive dissonance is uncomfortable, and nobody enjoys feeling like they've been exposed as a phony. That's what liberal left punching is really about. It's not about political pragmatism or any of that nonsense. It's petty, vindictive, egotistic meltdowns dressed up in reasonable-sounding words. It's never anything nobler than that. There are two types of Israel supporters. One, those who know Israel's existence is premised on continually abusing Palestinians and think this is fine. Two, those who lie to themselves and others about Israel's nature and pretend it could be a just and moral country someday. Those in the first category are often categorized as right-wing extremists, while those in the second category are typically thought of as more liberal and moderate. But in reality, they are the same category. They are not at all different in terms of the actual concrete abuses they will throw their weight behind and facilitate. They differ only in the narratives they lay on top of those abuses. Category 1 supported the incineration of Gaza while saying, "Haha, yes, exterminate the Arab scum," while Category 2 supported the incineration of Gaza while tut-tutting at Netanyahu and talking about how tragic the whole thing is. It's the same movie with a different soundtrack. Australian civil rights are being destroyed to protect Israeli information interests because of highly dubious anti-Semitic attacks which are being perpetrated by people with no ideological interest in Jews who appear to have been paid for their actions by foreign operatives. It's always okay to share your opinions about Israel. If civil rights in your country are being shredded to promote the interests of a foreign state, then you get to voice very strong opinions about that state and its actions. Anyone who disagrees with this is wrong. The unspoken premise behind the plan to keep capitalism going is that the world will be saved by sociopathic tech plutocrats like Elon Musk. The idea is to just continue the plan of infinite growth on a finite world until hopefully some tech company produces technology that makes such growth sustainable in a way that both A, benefits everybody, and B, turns billionaires into trillionaires. That's the assumption underlying the decision to keep capitalism in place even as we watch our biosphere disappear before our eyes. And it's pure fantasy. As long as mass-scale human behavior is driven by the pursuit of profit, you're going to see the interests of humanity and the ecosystem subverted by that pursuit. The belief that capitalism will rescue us from the ecological disasters it creates assumes that the blind pursuit of profit for its own sake will somehow possess the wisdom necessary to preserve the delicate ecosystemic context upon which human life depends, while also ensuring that we all have a decent quality of life, as long as we work hard enough, of course. This is a religious belief. It's blind faith dogma, based on literally nothing other than one's desire to believe it. It ascribes a wisdom to the invisible hand of the market that is tantamount to claiming that capitalism is being steered by God. It's something people want to believe because the alternative is falling back on some form of socialist system to ensure our survival on this planet, which we in the West have been indoctrinated into reflexively dismissing. Market forces are not guided by wisdom. They are guided by greed and fear, and by the unresolved early childhood trauma of the Musks and Thiels and Bezoses of this world. Capitalism is a great way to guarantee more production and consumption, but it is completely useless for curbing ecocide and restoring planetary health. As long as ecocide remains profitable under a system where mass-scale human behavior is driven by profit, ecocide will inevitably continue. What we need, then, is a completely different system, one where we move from competing with each other at the expense of our biosphere to collaborating with each other and with our ecosystem. Collaboration-based systems are inherently incompatible with the competition-based ones we live under today, but they are also the only way we are going to be able to continue living on this planet. And proponents of capitalism might here say, "Aha! That's what you're missing. We're not going to continue living on this planet. Daddy Elon's going to take us all to Mars." But that's kind of my whole point here. This is a baseless religious belief. Proponents of capitalism rely on the entirely faith-based belief that technological innovations will soon make it possible for limitless space colonization to occur, thereby enabling the infinite expansion upon which capitalism depends. But there is no scientific evidence that humans will ever be able to live outside the biosphere from which they emerged. The closest we've ever gotten are these glorified scuba excursions wherein astronauts pack up pieces of Earth's biosphere and suck on them for a while before returning to their planet's surface. Assuming this means we can colonize space and live permanently completely independent of Earth's biosphere is the same as assuming you can one day flap your arms hard enough to fly into the clouds just because you are able to jump. The assumption of space colonization as a reality in our future arises not from science, but from the egoic delusion which pervades human consciousness that we are much more separate from our world than we actually are. The human organism is no more separate from its biosphere than a ripple in a teacup is from the tea. Assuming we can just pack up our bodies and permanently move them off-world is like assuming you can take a single ripple in a teacup and transport it into another cup of tea in a country across the ocean. Science simply does not understand the many different ways in which the human organism is interconnected with Earth's biosphere, and isn't anywhere close to understanding it. Even if it is technically possible to someday have us survive on another planet, or in floating space cylinders as per Jeff Bezos' plan, and again, it is a complete article of faith that such a thing is even possible, we have no reason to assume that we'll be able to attain this goal fast enough to avert ecological disaster here on Earth. The technology to adequately replicate our planet's living conditions to make human life and reproduction sustainable in the long term could be many centuries off, by which time capitalism will have long ago devoured the face off this world. So, the belief that capitalism will be able to carry us into the future is entirely faith-based and premised upon many unknowns and absurdities. We can keep clinging to those baseless superstitions, hoping our evidence-free gamble eventually pays off so we never have to change ourselves. Or we can move into a mature relationship with reality and start building something different together.